welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin. You guys can talk now.
I'm Craig.
And I'm Daniel.
And we finally have seen the new and last Guardians of the Galaxy movie. We're over 3 months too late, but that's on brand for us. I guess before we talk about this one, let's just quickly talk about the first two. In short, I liked the first one. I haven't seen the second one a whole lot, but I remember when I saw it in the theaters, I didn't really like it. I thought it was every time there was a dramatic moment in that movie, it was undercut with some dumb joke, and that was really annoying. What about you guys? What do you think of the first two?
About the same. Yeah, the first one was obviously the best one. The second one definitely felt like a misstep. And then I know they had the holiday special, but
I didn't
I'm
watch
not
that
going to see
either.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way. First one was obviously the best, and the second one was it was watchable, enjoyable some parts, but like you were saying, it definitely it was a letdown, especially when they kept undercutting it.
So then, after James Gunn's really creepy tweets got spilled out on from Twitter that he made a decade ago, Disney fired him, and then DC, in full desperation mode, scooped him up and let him make the Suicide Squad. Then after he signed on, that's when Marvel was like, you know what, we need you back. So after the Suicide Squad, which we talked about in this program, it was pretty good. He came back to make this movie, and I thought it was okay. I think it's better than the second one.
Whoa.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's this one was easily the worst one, but
Oh, really?
yeah.
Um, I didn't hate it. Uh, I don't know. I was kind of indifferent going into it, and there was some touching moments in it, but overall, I, I don't know if it's worse than the second one. Honestly, I think I no, I actually I think I enjoyed the second one better than this one.
Oh, I'm the odd one out. So, aside from as a lot of people who don't like this movie has to do with the animal cruelty in it. Aside from that,
Aside from that, that's a big
Yeah.
part of the movie.
what don't you guys like?
I mean, I think a big part of it is the way they handled Gamora. I would have preferred if either they got back together, or they just kind of killed her.
Yeah.
I think that was fine that she went off to do her own thing because it was a different character.
Yeah, but I don't care for it. I mean, also it didn't help that Endgame kind of created this problem. I think she's just been, dead.
Yeah, they
But
they should have just fully committed and killed her. But I think it was
but
better that she just went off and did her own thing at the end. Because I never really cared for her. Just get her out of there.
to me, just like for Star-Lord, like he's basically like haunted by her ghost almost, and like I don't
Well,
know, I feel
Craig,
over the course of the,
not every character has to have a happy ending. He kind of gets his happy ending, and then he has to come to accept that it's not the same one. He's
I
got to
just
move
feel like
on.
I just feel like it's
Uh,
not a very satisfying ending. Like, oh, he has to
yeah.
move on. Like,
Well, I think I was some of the endings I thought I after Endgame and like how they especially handled Thor, like I was just tired of like Star-Lord 2 is on this path of I have to after all this stuff, I have to figure out who I really am. It's like and Mantis did it too. Like like when they did that I kind of was annoyed. Like they go through all of this stuff, you build up all this character arc, and then at the end of it, it's just like, oh, they have to figure out who they are. It's like that's just kind
I
of
hate it too. Like, it's such
it
a
just it
awful
it
motivation.
it completely ruins all of their arcs up to that point that they finally had their family together, and that's like, oh, the family's breaking up. Like, oh, Peter has to go find himself, and then so does Mantis. It's like,
Well, at least for Peter, he's finding his actual only remaining family.
But that was the
Is
whole point, was that he found his family in the Guardians. Like he was
yeah, I know,
more a
but
part
like,
of it. Just to me, like after all of this character arc and stuff for him, it's like, it's not just this movie. It's just what they did to Thor, and then like it's just
oh, we're not
tiresome of
talking about
like,
Thor, but
I know I'm using Thor as an
well, I know,
example.
I
It's
know.
just it's just tiresome of like after all of this, character building, it's just now it's like, oh, I got to figure out who I am. It's like that was the whole point of your entire arc, because you finally figured it out and you found where you're meant to be, and it just kind
I
of
wouldn't say that
ruins
was
it.
Peter's arc at all for Star Lord at least. Not really. Maybe more for Thor, but not so much for Peter.
Well, he also said Mantis too. She needs to find herself, which
It's like,
I hate that motivation too because it's always just like they clearly are just writing that because they have no idea where to take the character. The actors may or may not come back.
No, it's 100% have to do with like contractual stuff.
I know. It just when I see it in the movie, it's like it's not like it's a good excuse as to what she's doing. Like I gotta find myself. Like what are you, some like college kid in your 20s? Like you should kind of know what you are.
Hmm.
especially Mantis was like a big part of the, like she was like the heart for the team at points.
Well, that and like she needs to find out who she is, but like in the movie, apparently her half brother is Peter. Like, shouldn't that be enough for you to stay? Like she has like same thing with Peter. Like you have family alive. Shouldn't that be enough for you?
I
Like as weird as
guess
it may sound,
I
like maybe
guess
she could have
not.
gone to Earth with him. I just feel like running off into space doing God knows what is not a very satisfying ending. I also want to get back to Gamora because I just feel like her running off is not very satisfying. Like I think either she should have died, realize, so Peter just, he's you know what, Gamora's finally gone for good. I won't ever get her back, or she does come back to him. I feel like getting like neither is just like the way we got was just not great. It's like, oh, she's alive, but she basically like hates his guts.
Yeah, and she was also so angry. Like this wasn't the Gamora from before. Like I know it's supposed to be an old Gamora, but that Gamora was not this angry, I feel like.
She seemed much like efficient with her job, not like a teenager yelling at everybody.
I think at least for Gamora, like I didn't, like I said, I didn't really care that
Well, it's
she
not for
did
her.
her own thing at the end. And I know she was like super,
It's
like
how it
frothy
affects
from the
Peter.
mouth too. She was like really aggressive in the movie.
Yeah, like and I think that would have been a better ending, is if like she goes through all this with the team, right? And say she doesn't end up with Peter, right? I agree with you, Craig. I think they should have ended up back together, but say they don't. I think she goes through all this. She finally like kind of gets those, like builds that friendship that she had with them, and then maybe Peter leaves, or Mantis leaves, and Gamora comes back to the team, and she starts with the new Guardians. So it's like she kind of starts over with them again.
I think it was just, you don't like again. Not everybody has to have like a happy end. Like, oh, they get back together.
Well, that's why I said like if they don't have to get back together, at least kill her off. So Peter can fully move on instead of having basically his love staring at him in the face, but it's basically a different version of her. Like that's why I hate the multiverse stuff. Either you get them back together or you kill them. I feel like anything between is just not a great ending.
Like I said, let her. Again, it has 100% to do with we don't know what we're gonna do after this. We don't know who we're gonna bring back.
That's why you can kill her. I mean, you already killed her once. Why can't you do it a second time?
I know. I guess that defeats the purpose, like of killing
Well,
her
not really,
again.
because she was brought back for virtually no reason.
Yeah, like I said, that was all Endgame's problem for doing that.
Yeah, I think honestly it would have been better if she wasn't in this.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, that would have been the best option, but that's why I felt like killing her off or getting back together, because it's almost like like when Spock comes back, they're able to bring him back to basically how it was before almost.
Because that was a part of the movie that annoyed me when they were at Orgo Corp, and like they're trying to like complete their mission, but in the middle of it, Peter's like trying to like get her to remember something that didn't happen to her. Like
Yeah.
it's not like she had her memory erased. This is a different version of her, so she doesn't have memories.
Well, he
So
wasn't trying
that,
to get the memories. He was just trying to woo her. He wasn't like
but
saying, "Remember this or
but
that," and
by
we did, or we did this or that. He was just trying to woo
he
her.
no he did a couple times. He's like you know you love me and all. It's like it just I don't know it just like in the middle of all of that it kind of I don't know it was just annoying. Like in the middle of all their missions, like he's trying to like get her back and stuff. I think it would have just been better if she wasn't there, and in the missions, he's coming to himself of getting over her. Would have been better.
Well, like we said, it would have been better if she just wasn't in the movie.
Yes, but again, I just feel like her just running off to do adventures without him. I just don't like it. Like I feel like that's the worst outcome they could have picked.
It's the safest outcome they picked, and that's probably why it's the worst.
It's
Actually,
not even the
I
safest
would say
though.
the safest would be them getting back together. I feel like that's like as safe as you can be. Because then it's like, oh, her death literally means nothing. As we said, Endgame created that problem already when they brought her back. Her death meant nothing. But let's make her death mean really nothing, and then they get back together again. It's like nothing. It's like big
Okay, I mean,
circle.
I get what you're saying with that, but at least there's the fact that they fall in love again. They're so like their love is so great that like even an alternate version of her will come back to him.
And I think I
I,
would have hated that more. That would have been more of an eye roll.
I don't know. I would have preferred that, or at least, or maybe she's like, you know what? I'll sacrifice myself. I see how much you love me, and I don't know, something where it's like,
Or or maybe they don't fall back in love, but she at least rejoins the team.
well, man,
I don't really care if she joined or I don't. I never cared for Gamora, so that's why
again, to me, it's not about her. It's about how it affects Star-Lord.
yeah. But at the end, he's all fine. He doesn't care anymore.
I don't know, I just, but again, it's like he almost like screwed over half the universe for her, and now he's just like, oh well, I guess I can't win you back. Like he's gonna give up that easily.
I mean, I don't know what the time jump is between this movie and Endgame.
I think it's like a year or two.
Is
I
it?
looked it up because I was confused too.
It's not like 5 years, 4 years, whatever. Well,
No,
actually,
it's like a year or
I
two.
want to look this up. So I didn't see the holiday special.
I mean, the only thing I looked up from the holiday special is that they are now running nowhere,
Yeah.
and Mantis tells Peter that they're half siblings.
Okay.
I did see that. Yeah,
There was a dog running around.
Oh yeah, and Cosmo appeared.
Cosmo.
it was another useless character in this movie.
Well, Cosmo was just kind of there. I mean, I think
No, Cosmo didn't hurt the movie in any way, but didn't really serve any point just to be that meaningless banter between her and Cracklin scenes.
Yeah,
I,
kind of like it kind of got old real fast.
his microphone cut out a little bit.
No, I was saying that Cosmo served the only purpose was for the meaningless banter between her and Kraglin in the
Cosmo did help out at the end.
I know, but still, like the banter was more of just like, all right, I get it.
yeah, the bad dog joke. It's like how many they just didn't let it go.
Yeah, I mean, that's Marvel humor at this point.
That was another thing I didn't like about this movie. So a lot of the humor, especially the running jokes, like they beat to death the misidentifying Rocket, his species.
They didn't do it
Squirrel,
since the first one.
he was Badger, you know.
Oh,
It's like,
that doesn't bother me. They don't know what a raccoon is. They're aliens.
But it's like, then why are they saying other Earth animals?
I don't know. Just it's not like they take a moment to pause, like, oh, quiet down there, rabbit, and then there's like that awkward pause for the audience
Yeah,
to get their laugh in.
it's almost like the sitcom, but they have to always pause
Yeah,
to
it's
get
like
some of their
watching
laughs.
Friends, and it's just like the voids of silence after. I think what was annoying was how sidelined what's his face.
Adam Warlock.
Yes.
Well, his character, how they set him up in this annoyed me. He was like a child, like that. He kept mom, and he's like the way he was acting was just it was pointless. Like, just don't have him in the movie then. they sidelined him, and in the scenes he wasn't. He was just acting like a child. I get it. They said he got taken out of his cocoon sooner, but I don't think that would mean he would have to act like a child.
Like, I'm curious when they said when he took him out of the cocoon because Guardians 2 takes place in 2014. It's been like,
Yeah, it was like a couple months after the first one.
yes, like, I don't know, like, how long, like, when did they take him out? Like, a year ago? 10 years ago? I mean,
Yeah, then there's that whole time jump in Infinity War.
that's why I was confused. Like, okay, well, when did they take him out? Because
Well,
even if he's a
did
child,
maybe he got snapped away, so those 5 years doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I don't really know.
it
He
was
was
just like a
just
detail.
Yeah, it was just a waste of a relatively, like he could have been done well, but they wasted him.
Well, I feel like too with not just him, but like even like most of the cast, I felt like a waste. Because they don't have not everybody has anything to do. Like
Really, I thought they were doing more in this movie than the second one, like the whole cast.
I would disagree on that because most of them
Really?
felt useless. A lot of them were just like screwing around, not really having anything to do.
Like Mantis and all the other ones did absolutely nothing. She was actually doing more in this one. Same with like Groot, who actually looks cooler in this movie than like that creepy slender tree
Like
in the
Slender Man.
first one. Yeah.
I don't know, I
And
disagree. Like
Nebula
because
was doing so much too.
well, not Nebula, but I feel like Drax and Mantis are basically just like the two idiots constantly screwing up.
But at
They would show
least
up for like they would show
yeah,
up for fight scenes, but then like, really have nothing else to do.
but at least like Drax was useful to the team at that one point where he could speak the language. Because all the other movies, he was just useless. He's completely useless.
Well, he is. I mean, he would have been useless if they didn't give him the ability to somehow speak a language that the Universal Translator didn't have. Like I thought it was because the High Evolutionary made it up, but apparently it's a real language. Which, I, not that we're against the details of a Universal Translator, but you would think it would pick it up.
Yeah, you're probably right. At least he was doing more stuff, and stuff was an asterisk where he did one more thing than he did all the other movies. Because he's just kind of there in all the movies. He does absolutely nothing.
Eh, kinda. I mean, at least maybe the second one. The first one, he was obviously more important.
Yeah, well, yeah. The second one, he was just irrelevant.
Because I mean, this is like a problem, I guess, with sequels where you don't really plan things out. You kind of just go as you go along as you make it up as you go along.
I wouldn't say it's not so much a planning issue.
You let
It's
me finish.
oh,
Like, you make it up as you go along. So like, what you have an idea for a character in one movie, and you have to have in the sequel. It's like, well, now we don't really think for this guy to do. So it's like, it's not just like this movie. Like I think tons of like big franchise, like you gotta have this character return, but like, well, what do they do? I don't know.
well, the I was gonna say the problem is that there's just too many characters.
That too.
That's the biggest issue. Because then you have to divide certain stuff for these characters to do things when you're trying to focus instead of one and two characters, you're trying to focus on like eight. There's a reason why like movies with team superheroes are just like a disaster. There's too many people to get to.
Well, that's why you gotta focus more on like the spectacle, or at least have like Infinity War have the bad guy be the main character.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Infinity War is the exception, not the rule. Because if you gave DC all the ingredients Marvel had, they'd still screw it up.
Not if Zack Snyder had his vision.
Yeah,
Restore the Snyderverse column.
pipe down, Snyder lackey.
But yeah, Adam Warlock, I felt like he was just he was meaningless in this.
He had such like long periods too from appearance. Like he appears immediately at the beginning, thinking he's going to be important, and then like doesn't appear again for like another hour or so, and then doesn't appear again until like the end of the movie. Like
He's he's that one he's that one scene where he took that guy that he disintegrated. He took the pet, and him and his mom are like in the ship, and they're arguing about like the pet and everything. And I'm like, what is this? This doesn't serve the plot in any way. It's not funny.
Yeah, they could have got rid of that part.
to show that he's a child.
They honestly could have just taken out all of the Sovereigns' involvement in this film. There was no point for them to be there because High Evolutionary was already. He said to his one of his scientists, like, oh, you really trust them to track them down? He's like, no, they're just a backup plan. It's like he already had it in mind, like he was gonna lure the Guardians into a trap anyway. So why are the Sovereign there? Like they were useless. Like they were like a cameo, like a fine cameo in the second one. Okay, you don't need to bring them back. No one cares about the High Priestess, and Adam Warlock was useless in this. They could have just cut them out of the movie.
Well, the obvious reason was that they wanted Adam Warlock on the team.
I mean, they should
And
have done something different instead
But
of
I'm
having
they could.
this.
wondering. No, no,
But
no.
Adam
I'm
Warlock could have.
wondering what the original plan was. Because now Marvel's adding so much stuff in between everything. I wonder if any of the newer movies that came out before this ruined what the original vision of this movie was. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much stuff that stuff changes. I'm not even sure like how soon James Gunn knew of Gamora getting killed. Like obviously he probably knew beforehand for Infinity War, but like how much did he know when they were writing it?
I don't think he knew. I don't think he had much involvement because I remember seeing like he didn't know like Thor was gonna join the Guardians at the end of Endgame.
Oh, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like we don't know what Marvel's constantly changing to at least like to this stuff too. We don't know what they're adding, what they're taking away. It's
But
a giant mess because there's just too many cooks in the kitchen. It seems.
well, I feel like it's also they're like desperate trying to like get new characters that people will be interested into instead of like all the characters they've killed off. But at least for the Guardians, I feel like they tend to have a little more free reign because they're like the only real major characters operating in space. You know, like you have
You're
to worry about
forgetting
like
that.
any.
Miss Marvel, but that's cool.
Well, not really. I mean, you're just dealing with the Kree and the like the Skrulls. Besides those two races, like I think everything's fair game. And I know what you're saying though, like, he's not told of anything, so he's like, well, this kind of blows up my original idea for Guardians 3.
Yeah, could you imagine if Thor was in this?
That'd been awful.
Yeah, yeah, and that was the thing with this movie. Like, I think it would have just like there was so much going on, and they should just like so many pieces trying to tie like tie a bow on the original team. It fell short. Another thing I did not like about this movie was the music.
It was
Yes.
okay. It's
But that's
Now,
the thing though. It
well,
was
the
a
thing,
letdown.
so well, so what I realized is in the first and second one, they had a nice blend of playing these classic songs at moments, and then the rest of the movie had a soundtrack. So in the filler scenes of like travel and stuff like that, you would have the soundtrack playing, and then for those certain moments, they would have an actual song that people know would come on to play. This movie was overload with just songs, and it annoyed me because every scene they played some song and blasted it. Like every time there was an action scene, every time there was a scene where they were going through space, every time they were like just going when they even were going through got through the shields and they're going to Ogre Corp, and they had that song just playing the whole time. It's like you don't need that. It just seemed like to me it was just like song overload. For every scene they had a specific song to play instead of like doing a nice blend of like for the big moments you have like all right you have a song, but the rest of the scenes like you can just have a soundtrack in the background. It just seemed like this one they went overload with just
See, that
songs.
didn't really bother me. Honestly, before you said there was a lot of songs, I didn't really notice because that's like what these Guardians movies, even the first two. There's lots of songs playing. Maybe this one had too many, but you said popular songs. You don't have to use popular songs all the time. And honestly, I prefer when movies don't, because then if a movie uses popular songs like Suicide Squad, it's just annoying.
You don't like the Suicide Squad songs? Oh no, no,
No,
the
no,
first one.
Suicide Squad. The first one. They were playing every popular song you could think of. They played Fortunate Son in that movie. Like, what?
Well, my thing is, well, like, I just don't think the songs were as good. Like, they weren't as catchy or memorable. Because they
That's
played like
yeah,
older songs.
that's
Because I mean,
fine. I prefer just not so many popular songs, I
I
guess
No,
you
mean
could
I,
say.
that's his thing though. Like that's what he does in all of his.
No,
He's done these
not all
movies.
of his or not all of them are like super popular. Obviously, you have
No,
the hits.
no. I'm also
Just
talking about
songs
the
that like
fact
I
that
think kind
like
of fit better and are just better.
no, but I think some scenes you don't need a song playing over it. You can just have the soundtrack playing, background music. Like you
But I
don't have to
guess
have
James
a
Gunn was
specific
thinking
song.
this is the Guardians thing. They're always playing music.
I
I
just
guess
think for
that's
this one
his logic.
he just went overload on the songs instead of the first one had a nice like yeah there were moments with the songs but they also had a theme playing like when the team came together it was a theme it wasn't a song it was a soundtrack so but this one it didn't seem like there was any soundtrack it was just all songs and I it just felt like an overload like in the first two, it seemed like maybe the second one was more than the first, but the first one had like a nice blend of like a soundtrack, an actual theme for the team, like when they're breaking out of the prison and everything, when they formed at the end, and then with like certain songs of like Quill in the beginning, hey, like when he's going to say, yeah, you have a song there, but a lot of it was like soundtrack, like an actual theme.
Yeah,
This one, it
that's
didn't
like
seem like there was
that's
anything.
very minor. That doesn't bother me too
Well,
much.
for you.
Yeah, but it's just like we're talking about other stuff with the plot. I find that
Well, this is also a Guardians movie, so this the music is hyper important for it, it's a little more emphasized in these movies than like other Marvel movies.
yeah, I agree. That's
Marvel
why if
is more of
they're
just
playing
yeah.
more songs, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I would say I just don't think like the quality of the songs are the best because I feel like, this is his fourth movie doing this kind of
Yeah, maybe
gimmick.
he's running out.
That was my guess. Maybe,
That's why I
yeah.
think just blend more of a do more of a theme or do the first
I
original
will
theme
say this:
and
the
blend it.
music stuff, I agree, was a little lacking. But that's a personal taste. Maybe he
Oh
liked
no
this
no no and
stuff.
that's something that I just didn't like about this
Yeah, yeah.
movie.
That the music, as I said, doesn't really bother me too much. It's
That's something I
he
yeah
probably
that's
like it's a
yeah.
personal taste for him, whatever. Because I haven't, like I said, we haven't seen the Christmas special, whatever that's called again. I forget.
I think it's the
We don't
holiday
know what he
special.
played in that. We don't know what he played in Peacemaker. He might be just running out of songs, to be honest.
That was one of the things I didn't like about it.
Yeah,
What was this? Something I found kind of funny, but not intentionally, was the counter-Earth species.
yeah, that was a little. Oh,
They
I
looked
guess.
kind of it looked
Yeah,
kind
you
of
go.
cheesy, but it just looked like people in like really bad furry suits, so I thought it was kind of funny.
I'm going to talk about something I did like was villain didn't want revenge on Earth and was trying to blow something up and rule the universe,
He was just a bad guy.
trying to make a perfect species by experimenting on animals and like ripping them apart. I think that's quaint in the sense that like I'm so tired of this guy is threatening the galaxy, this guy's threatening this and that. That is
Also, just think too,
so
like the
stale.
sympathetic backstory where, it's like, oh, you got to really feel bad for him to understand. Like, no, this guy was just a maniac,
Yeah, you don't always have to feel bad for the villain to like them. You could just like them because they're just like crazy and they're just nuts.
like Big Jack Horner.
Like Palpatine, where
Yes.
he's just hamming it up in episode 3.
You don't know anything about his backstory. It's just he's the bad guy.
And like I said, I thought that was very nice. Because then it like really makes you want to root against this guy. It makes it more satisfying
I mean,
when he gets
even just the
killed.
fact that like look at the t animal torture he's doing. That to me alone is just like, oh my God, like what a
I
monster.
did
Maybe Michael Vickers
that
are in for him.
no, but like what Colin was saying about like when you root against him, like I will say that was like a highlight of the film is when the team beat him up at the end. Like everyone got a good shot in on him and stuff. Like that was a satisfying scene because you did not like what especially what he was doing to the animals and then to kids.
No stopping this man. But I
Because
guess something. I mean,
yeah, you go, you go,
I
you
was
go.
gonna you go.
No, you go.
Well, I was gonna change the topic slightly.
I
Stay.
was just gonna say that I found his death definitely one of the most satisfying in the
Yeah,
MCU.
I
I
agree.
can't think of a satisfying MCU death because Thanos. I felt bad for the man.
He wasn't even doing anything.
No, the second time. Oh yeah,
Oh
even the
yeah.
first time too. Yeah, he just gets his head chopped off.
Okay, the second time was like, eh. Because you would have got wished like all of them
Because you
got
know
a
what
hit
the
in.
MCU tries to do? They try to make their villains likable, and there's never that opportunity to really stick it to the villain when he's dying or getting killed.
Yeah,
Because
because
they
even
try to take that sympathetic approach.
look at Loki.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, how many times has that guy died?
But every time he died, it was like there was this sympathetic approach to his death.
Yeah, that's why this one's probably the outlier, where it's just like, no, they go full in. They really like just they all get their shots in on him at the end.
I did very much like that scene. I agree with you. It's definitely a highlight of the film.
I
It
think
was also
also,
it was also
you
nice
go.
to see them. It was also nice to see the team like working together.
So a big shock to me was I didn't know it had like the story was going to revolve around Rocket. I had no idea like before going to see this. I mean, I think I read some spoilers here or there when the movie came out. Like the whole movie's about Rocket, and I think that was nicer because I guess we already had the second film was about Peter, so that was nice. At least we focus on another team member than maybe trying to rehash the sole focus on Peter again.
But also too, I mean, he was always like the second, like even in the second one, when they split off, like they were both the leaders of their group. Like he
Yeah,
was always like the second most important character.
And same with Infinity War.
no,
Like when
yeah,
he went
I
for
like
Thor.
that. Yeah, I like Rocket, and it's nice to see him
I,
the shine.
I
I
will,
guess even though he's like
yeah.
he's
In
mostly
a coma.
yeah, he's in a coma.
I mean, no, like while people I know we said that people had a problem with the animal torture. At least like with Rocket's tragic backstory, it actually gave heart to the film, and it wasn't a tragic backstory like undercut with humor. They actually went for full like tragedy on it. So I will give them credit for actually. I was actually shocked because the Guardians are typically lighthearted that they kind of went like a much darker tone with this one. But but at
Or just
least
like
I'll give
visually,
them
just
credit. Yeah.
like they showed a lot of like blood, gore, animal
Yeah,
body horror.
this was pushing the envelope for MCU, I guess.
I mean, I don't know if he's just like I don't want to tone it down after the Suicide Squad, but like it definitely like this to me was probably worse than the Suicide Squad.
Like the violence in that movie.
Because I mean, when you see someone like like the blood splatter, someone gets shot or whatever, you see blood or like a hole, like that's I don't know. I don't think it's that bad. But to me, like seeing animals get like ripped apart and like have all these awful things attached, that to me is worse. I don't like body horror.
What was it? They had that walrus wheeling around.
Yeah, and like the
They should have
rabbit was
called
just
him
And the
Wheels.
bunny had
that kept creeping me out.
and it had like the thing over its mouth.
Yeah, that reminded me of Toy Story for whatever reason. The very first one.
Yeah, yeah, Sid's toys.
Maybe this guy High Evolutionary is based off of Sid. He's just taking apart different toys and putting them together.
Because my point I was going to say before was just calling it Counter Earth. I mean, because in the comics, the High Evolutionary was a man from I think the 1800s who like built his own planet. And in here, I guess it doesn't really work, but it's more of a nitpick.
I mean, I feel like at this point the MCU is so far removed from the source material. It's like whatever.
Well, it's more just like why you call it Counter Earth because they already had another name called Half World, but I think would have worked better.
Yeah, I agree, but I think the MCU is just character name or like comic book character in name only. Because like the Guardians are nothing like how they are in the comics at all.
Oh, I know that. Like I said, it wasn't like it was a real complaint. It's more of just like why even call it Counter Earth at that point? But
Like I'm
whatever.
pretty sure Drax the comics isn't a bumbling moron, and
He might be now
Mantis.
because of
Oh yeah,
synergy.
yeah. But Mantis, I'm sure, isn't just like barely sentient at this point. Like she is so aloof. I'm very confident to say the comics aren't like that.
Oh no, no, you're right.
Was Nebula ever? I'm assuming in the comics also she's not a robot or a cyborg.
She is.
She is in the comics. Okay.
She wasn't, but then I remember, I think when Thanos came back from the dead, he took over like her pirate ship because she was like a space pirate and like burned her alive and like she had to be rebuilt with cybernetics.
My
Because she used to
God.
have like a full head of hair and then she lost it when Thanos like mutilated her.
My God. I think what I liked also was Nebula had a big role in this movie. And she's kind of also been alongside Rocket where she survived all this like terrible stuff.
You know, then yeah, they both survived the snap together.
Well, not even that. Like she has her terrible backstory too, where Thanos would rip her apart and like attach a
See that
whatever.
was the thing I found like a little cringe, which said Thanos wasn't as bad as that. I was
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, that
Yeah,
wasn't bad
I
at
thought
all.
that too when she
I
said
was like,
that.
I forgot that happened, but I do remember now. But I like how she
Especially,
was kind of like
yeah,
she has a big part in the movie, and that was nice. She has like she could turn her arm into like whatever. I was like, that's cool.
it's like a Terminator.
I feel like that's why in this movie it just feels like the team as a whole is more formidable than the first two movies. Because in the first two movies, they're just like they're a joke. They're a
well, like I
complete
said, they're
joke.
more formidable. I feel like plot wise, they're not as useful.
Oh well, yeah, yeah, I could see that. But at least in this one, it felt like they're like an actual team that can do something. Because like
Especially like
the
Groot. Like now they have
yeah,
Groot back.
yeah, he's nuts. What he can do in this movie, he turned into a giant monster and started like.
Yeah, Groot, go kaiju.
Because like in the second one with Baby Groot too, it's just like I think this team would struggle against like a high school football team.
Well, they did kind of have Yondu a bit in the second one with that arrow. That's almost like a
Well,
cheat code.
at the very end of the second one,
Yeah.
after Yondu
Could
dies. Oh, I just remembered something I did not like was they teased that Peter was gonna die for a third time. They did it at the end. They did it in the middle of the first one when he saves Gamora and he puts that thing on her, and then they rescue him. They do it at the end of the second one where Yondu puts a thing on him to save him when he's freezing up in space, and they do it at the end of this one. I can't believe they keep teasing this guy's death for three straight movies.
But this was, the other two at least I feel like made sense, and I didn't have a problem. But this one was just stupid because he came back for a stupid Zune.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it
No,
was
the
more
other
just
two,
like,
no, the other two did not make sense either. Because the first time you're doing it in the middle of the movie, don't do that because there's no tension because the audience knows he's not going to die.
but I mean, I feel like it makes sense. Like he was trying to help Gamora.
Still, the idea of it, like, oh, we're going to tease his death again and again and again. Enough.
Because again, my thing is more of other times it was more like first when he said self-sacrifice. I think Yondu, I forget what happened, why he was in trouble in the second one, but the third one, all for the stupid Zune.
Well, the second one is because Ego was going to use him essentially as like a battery to
Well, no,
power
just
all
for that
his.
one sequence where they're like together, and then Yondu has to give him his thing to breathe in space. I can't believe they've done that three times. Yeah, but this is the worst offender. But like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can't believe they keep doing it. If there's a
Because
spin-off with Star Lord, are they gonna do it again? Like,
well, I think too, it's also dumb because I think part of the reason why he had to be saved is just to give Adam Warlock something to do.
Yeah, it was.
he needs that morale boost.
Like, oh well, he didn't really do anything all movie, so this is like the one heroic thing he'll do.
Well, I guess let's talk about real quick the subverting the expectation because when the trailer came out, the trailer pretty much teased that Rocket was gonna die, Groot was gonna die, and they don't. None of them die. No one dies in this movie. At least none of the main heroes.
And
High
Drax,
evolution.
Drax also got teased a bit too.
Did I say that? I meant to say that. Oh yeah, I did say that. I'm just talking about in the trailer. Like
Wow.
they made it seem like they're gonna kill these characters. Yeah, they had that scene with Drax. Who got like shot in the chest, and it's
I
like
mean,
you don't have to kill people off. If it's their final movie. So I guess I appreciate that in the sense that
The,
they're
yeah.
not doing the rash decision.
also
The
too, I
one,
always feel like that's a cheap way to end something. Like I'm okay giving characters happy endings. Like I don't see why that's always such a bad thing. Oh, you gotta kill them. It's the only solution to their end of their journey. Like we can't just tell them okay, and then they'll run nowhere for the rest of their days. Like I don't see what's wrong with that kind of ending.
Yeah. The one thing that did surprise me though about this, it subverted my expectations, was how quickly they put Rocket into a coma. I thought it would be like, later in the movie, but it was right away they downed him. I didn't expect that like the whole movie would be like that. Like I thought maybe halfway to the like second half to the third act he would be downed. But just immediately he just gets put down by Adam Warlock.
I didn't think his little friends were gonna die too. Like, cause I saw them in the trailer, I thought that'd be like towards the end. Oh, nope.
Yikes.
The one thing I don't know if you guys noticed this or bothered you. Um, I felt like I was watching an episode of It's Always Sunny with how much of the yelling that these characters were doing. They like it seemed like every other scene they were just yelling at each other. Like it was excessive to me.
I guess if there's that team family dynamic. I mean, Nebula was just screaming at Drax pretty much the whole movie.
All like
Yeah.
stupid and useless.
She's
Yeah,
not
they're like
wrong. She's not wrong.
yeah. But it just like it seemed excessive. Like I get it if they're a family, they're gonna bicker, but not every argument has to be a yelling match. You can just have disagreements. Like it just I don't know, it seemed like there was like every time they got into an argument, there's just yelling. Like every scene. It just I don't know, it annoyed me.
I didn't really care. It's just funny when she chewed out Drax for being useless. I'm like, yeah, he is.
Give it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she called him. You think I'm stupid? Yes. And she just goes, forget. But the one part that really I thought was the funniest part of the movie was when they were in Orgo Corp, and that guy that worked there, and Drax like almost gave away that like they were that like these suits were like they stole these suits and everything, and Star-Lord had to be like he's the nephew of the of the boss or whatever. He's a little he does like the hand motion and the guy goes, "Oh, yeah, I got one of those on my team too." And then he goes, "Now this one I love. I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you." He goes, "But this one," he just stares back at him with just utter disgust. I think he said it too to like Gamora or someone or like the
Yeah, he said
I
it twice or something.
yeah, he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I got one of those on my team too." I thought that part was funny. Just the look he gave of that guy with just utter disgust. That got me to chuckle.
Got a little chuckle out of you.
I mean, I will say, I think, well, some of the stuff was, I mean, I think Drax was just, the actor didn't care because he was always wearing like a shirt. I guess he'd want to be in several hours of makeup. It's like, yeah, just do my face and part of my arms. We'll call it the day.
I don't blame him. At least they actually. Isn't that something close to the actual comic costume? Like closer? Well, not maybe not for Drax because I
Not
think
really.
he. But even like what Star Lord wears, right?
Oh, yeah, like when they had
Their
their actual bonding
uniforms,
suits.
yeah, their uniforms at the end were like actually close, like relatively close to comics, like the design at least.
Took him over 3 movies to get it done, but good for them, I
Took it
guess.
a while. Like Groot finally resembled his comic self at the end
Yeah, like I
credit
said, he
scene.
didn't look like this creepy like creature.
I'm guessing he was young because like if you try to like follow the development, he looked more like teenage Groot in Infinity War and Endgame.
Why didn't they just
Now
make
he's like,
Groot look like that in the first movie? I know you're saying maybe he's a teenager in the first
yeah,
movie.
maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was like what a young adult. Now he's like a fully.
Maybe James Gunn did that, like he wanted Groot to look like that, and then maybe there was some fan backlash. I can't imagine who's a Groot fan like before the second movie, because that's when there's all the baby Groot craze. But maybe some people are like, this looks nothing like the comics. It just looks bizarre. At least they fixed it, I guess. I don't know. At least they fixed it.
I was also gonna say like, I think this might be one of the better looking recent Marvel movies.
Yes, it easily. I was gonna say it's definitely one of the better ones. Probably since 2019 or something.
Because
Yeah,
I mean,
because I'm
I haven't
looking at
seen
the
all of them.
list. Since Spider-Man Far From Home, which I think we talked about on this program, we didn't like it. There was Black Widow. I
I
didn't
haven't
like
seen
it.
Black Widow.
I didn't like it. There was Shang-Chi. It was okay. Eternals. I didn't like. Spider-Man No Way Home. We talked about. We didn't like it. Doctor Strange 2. Abysmal. Pretty bad. Thor: Love and Thunder. The worst Marvel movie. Easily. Black Panther 2. I did not see. Ant-Man the Wasp 4. I did not see. I saw parts of it, but I fell asleep. So it doesn't have strong competition, but it is the best Marvel movie to come out in Phase 4 or 5.
I know it's like the special effects first because,
Oh.
now the threat of their workers trying to unionize,
Well, you know what it is? It's because James Gunn probably plans all of his stuff, so there's not
like a
last minute.
professional.
Yeah, there's probably not a lot of last minute meddling where they're like, "Oh, we don't want to be in this planet. We want to be somewhere else. So it's a good thing we shot on the blue screen. You have 2 weeks to work on this."
And you're not getting paid for the overtime.
Yeah. Oh, we don't. We didn't finalize their costume designs. Let's just put a mocap on it and then CGI over it. That's what they did for Endgame.
Which to me is just so baffling. Like the fact that they're going in. Like I know some movies film without like a full script, but I don't know. This is just so much worse.
Yeah. It's yeah. But as I said, I think this is the best Marvel movie to come out since Endgame,
You're
There's
really
still
gonna
people.
say
which
you're
isn't
really gonna
saying
pick this
much.
over. You're gonna pick this over Craig's guy, Simu Liu,
Yes.
Shang Chi.
Oh,
Which is funny
easily.
because I feel like every time a new movie comes out, it's always like, oh, this is the best movie since Endgame. And we've had how many movies since Endgame?
We've
This is
had
the best movie since last month.
this is there's been 10 movies since Endgame.
Jeez. I feel like nothing's happened.
Marvel hasn't made a bad movie since their last one.
I mean, I know we haven't watched everything, but I just feel like they're making more stuff, but less is happening.
Well, they're trying to. I mean, this movie had nothing to do with Kang or whatever,
Well, no,
but they're
these
trying to
movies
build
are
up to
not.
that guy, I think.
Which
But
actor?
wasn't it? But that wasn't even like Kang was even like he was built up in Ant-Man, but he really was set up originally in what was it like Loki, right? In the TV shows
I
that
didn't watch that. I wouldn't
Yeah,
know.
but you heard like he appeared in it.
Yeah, he was
yeah.
like man who's not named or something.
But it's like none of them don't have the grander the larger agenda that the original like the first three phases had.
Because even if it like the movie didn't deal with an Infinity Stone, at least dealt with a character who would play a role later on, so you can kind of like understand where they came from and stuff. Like the first Ant-Man doesn't really play a huge overall role in the movie, but introduces Ant-Man, and now he was like a major, character in Endgame.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, Craig, the major character in Endgame was the rat that got him out of the quantum realm.
That is true. Rat Man saved Ant-Man. But like I guess this is more talking about the other movies, but this doesn't really feel like it belongs anywhere in the new multiverse saga. This really just feels like an epilogue to the Infinity Saga, like something with Black Widow. Like there's no reason that takes place in the multiverse saga. That's really it should have been, in the slot for Captain Marvel.
Yeah, really. I mean, Black Widow takes place in between Infinity War and
Yeah.
Civil War, so that movie coming out when it did made absolutely no sense.
Yeah, this one should not have come out as late. It should
Guardian?
have yeah.
Well, that's stuff that's just out of their control.
No, I'm not blaming, James Gunn and them,
Yes, you are. You hate him.
I read those tweets. But uh, but this one I think would have hit home better if it came out closer to Endgame, like initially after it,
Yeah, I agree.
because like
It's just
so
the
much has
problem is there's just so
happened.
much, yeah, so much happened, and there's just like a giant mess in
It's like
between
I
this
I
movie and
almost
Endgame.
forgot. Like I almost forgot. Like when they announced the third one was coming out, it's like I almost forgot that this like they were closing up Guardians because
Well,
it's
it was
just
supposed
like
to come out, I think, maybe 2019, 2020 originally.
so it's supposed to be like that's it. It would have felt much better coming out, but it's like you have all these random characters in between. It's like oh, here are the Guardians. Remember them? It's like yeah, their saga should have been closed years ago.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out in May 1st, 2020,
Yeah,
but then obviously he got fired, then he went to DC, made the Suicide Squad, which pushed everything back. Then he came
and
back to
the
this after even Peacemaker, he made after the Suicide Squad.
well also too like the cast stuck up for him to get him back on the
Well,
project.
they probably knew that if they had like some hack like Taika Waititi, it would have been a disaster.
Groot would have been talking like Korg.
Oh, yeah, what's up, man?
I am Groot,
He
man.
he would have voiced Groot. Korg would have been on the team somehow. It would have been a disaster.
I would have had those damn screaming goats back.
Yeah,
God.
it's just I can't believe we're already on Phase 5. Like I feel like
Hey, nothing happens in Phase 4.
I mean they introduced the multiverse, I guess, but
Craig, they had the secret invasion.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
sort of. I mean, it was a complete train wreck.
I think for Marvel's sake, they have to stop releasing so much stuff.
What also
Was
is
there
now too? It's like,
two shows a year is nuts.
yeah.
That is crazy.
Isn't there more than that?
It might be. I think at one point it was like 3 shows in a year. That's just too much. You're throwing too much at the wall. There's too many movies. 3 movies a year is nuts. The third Marvel movie this year is gonna be the Marvels. There's gonna be
Well,
another four next year, or
and
another
the
I
three
mean,
next
problem,
year.
oh, I
well,
probably not.
and the problem too is not only is it these are secondary characters that no one really knows or cares about unless you're like that avid of a fan of the comics. Is like we were talking about before. Is there's no greater purpose to these movies. Like if you're assembling like another threat coming, like they haven't really truly set Kang up like that, like how they set up Thanos. Like he was sprinkled across like how many movies was he in an
I mean,
end
he was teased
credit?
in the very first Avengers movie.
Yeah. So like there's no like build up for these characters. It's just like, oh, it's just their individual problems. It's like, but no one really cares about them because a lot of them were popular when they were, a part of the Avengers. They were part of these teams that were then involved in Infinity War and stuff like that.
Well, another problem is that and we talked about this before, the Rick and Morty writers. The one of them is writing the first Avengers movie, the Kang Dynasty. Another one's writing Secret Wars. You have those two clowns. It's going to be a disaster.
Well, that's before we get there. I think we're just saying like there's no like grand
Oh
vision or
yeah, yeah.
focus.
But they
Yeah.
try to do that with Quantumanium, written by a Rick and Morty writer, by the way. Apparently, it's a disaster. I mean, it sounds like our kind of movie. Maybe we'll watch that.
Please no.
No.
Doctor Strange 2, written by a Rick and Morty writer, a complete disaster. It's just not only they're not building up to anything, there's just too much nothing happening. There's too many movies that don't either build something up or introduce something. They're just there.
Yeah.
They're just there.
Like, you ever heard of
And
the
that,
superhero Echo?
No.
She's a woman, disabled Native American, but they're making a TV show about her.
Marvel is?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I don't know what role she could possibly play. It like or even like they introduced there's a as one season of Moon Knight. I don't think we'll ever see from him ever again.
Is there only one season?
That them aware of. I mean, I only think they did one season. I don't know if they're doing a sequel, but I doubt we'll ever see him again. I remember in She-Hulk, they
Oh yeah,
introduced
that's
Hulk's son.
true.
We'll never see him again.
Okay, let me
A
Oh,
dude with the bad haircut.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
'Cause I've seen memes about it. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't see that guy
I've
again.
always seen the memes.
oh my God, Echo's coming out this year. You're not kidding.
Because I think she appeared in the Hawkeye show, but like I don't know who this character is.
My
I
God, I
doubt
forgot.
she'll do much more outside of this.
So
My
they
God,
use.
I forgot. I forgot they had a Hawkeye show.
So, but this year is going to be the first one where they have three series coming
All
up. But
female movies.
they usually. Oh no! Oh my God! They had five shows in 2021.
Yeah, I told you.
My God! They had three last year: Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and She-Hulk. They're gonna have three. Yeah, that is just too much. That is just way too much stuff to throw at the
It's eight
audience.
shows in 2 years. Oh my
I mean, I don't know if
God.
it's too much. I just think it's not good. It's not good and it's
Well, that
pointless.
too, but it's just like you're oversaturating everything. It's going to lead to the collapse.
I mean, we already see it happening. It's
Well,
not like
I know, but it's just like it'll be like the video game crash, where there's just so much stuff that they're just going to implode. Because everyone's gonna, people are gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna spend however much it is now for tickets to see this movie in the theaters. If I'm
Yeah.
going like three times a year to see a Marvel movie.
They also had that Werewolf by Night like Halloween special too. They
oh,
introduced
yeah.
another character. They
That we'll
introduced
never
him
see
in
again.
yeah, like was it him and Man Thing?
This is crazy. This is disgusting what I'm looking at. All this stuff is just crazy.
So how many shows do they have out total?
How many have they done or just have out right now?
How many have they done?
Are you gonna include seasons like separately? Like season one, season
No,
two?
just no overall shows. Just
Echo will be the 11th since
And they're
2021.
yeah.
And they're coming out with an Ironheart, a Agatha, Coven of Chaos, Daredevil Born Again, and then what's in the future plans is Untitled Wakanda series, Spider-Man freshman year, Spider-Man sophomore year, Marvel Zombies, Wonder Man, Untitled Nova series, What If, and Vision Quest.
Huh.
Spider-Man freshman year of Professor.
Freshman year of what?
I think of college.
Didn't
Doesn't
they just
just
make a movie?
doesn't that just sound like a joke? Like you're reading that? Like it seems like they're running out of ideas.
I think
Nothing
they're
is
onto
sticking, so
something.
they just keep coming out with more.
Well, like I said, like there just seems to be no focus. Like I feel like because Phase the
Oh,
most
oh, the Spider-Man stuff is an origin story for Peter's early days of high school.
That's a different actor.
No, it's the same one. Oh wait, no, it's set in an alternate reality from the main MCU continuity,
Is that
in
going to be a
which Norman
Miles
Osborn
Morales?
is Peter Parker's mentor instead of
of
Tony
course, yes, their
Stark.
mentor. But like for example, Endgame was only the 22nd film. I think that's like almost doubled with the amount of movies and shows that have come out.
Yeah,
They
Marvel,
put out half
Marvel,
the amount of shows,
you gotta slow your roll there, Marvel. This is crazy.
but it took them for 10 years to get to that point of 22 movies, and they have 11 shows out in how many years?
Two.
Yeah, a fifth of the time, and they've produced half of the amount of like stuff.
I think a
Oof.
problem also is like since they're cramming out so many movies a year, uh, like a phase only lasts 1 to 2 years. Phase four lasted 1 year, a little over 1 year.
Oh, I think it was so short too because there was no focus. Like, well, what's Phase 4? I don't know. Let's just keep
But
making.
there were 7 movies in that
Because
phase.
because no one is nothing is sticking. You can how long was phase one?
Phase one was 6 movies, and it was 2008 to 2012.
Oh yeah, 'cause I feel like years isn't the best indicator. I feel like movies is because each one I think was like six,
But
six.
it's
I forget.
There's 6 movies. Phase two had one, two, three, four. Phase two had 6. Phase three had the most. One, two, three, four. Phase 3 had 11 movies, but that was a span of three. That was over 3 years.
But
And that's
again,
when
it definitely felt focused more.
that's when Marvel's starting to go a little nuts, like 3 movies a year.
Like I said, I mean, I have the opinion that it can work, but you have to actually have a plan. Because to me, they're just literally finding anything that could like, oh, you read a script for this? All right, we'll make it. I don't care. Like we need to keep pumping out stuff.
Realistically, for Phase 3, it should be 10 movies. Captain Marvel has no business being in Phase 3.
Well, also, I didn't include the Spider-Man one because that really doesn't add anything.
Yeah, it doesn't. The
Yeah.
Marvel problem, you could say.
Why do you keep pulling us back to this Colin?
Well, I know we went off topic a little bit, but at least the Guardians movie is, you don't have to love it, but it's still some semblance of the old Marvel a little bit. It isn't, it doesn't have it has bad humor in some parts, but it wasn't like Thor: Love and Thunder level of humor. Dear God, or Doctor Strange, or even Spider-Man level humor. I found this to be the most enjoyable movie since Endgame. Not that that's saying much, but it's how it
Yeah,
is.
I
Yeah, I
think it'll
agree.
one
Just
just yeah.
not very strong, I guess, agree.
And we've seen even less than you, Colin.
Well, I've only seen more. The ones that I've seen that you probably haven't are Shang-Chi, Black Widow, Eternals.
I did see Black Widow.
Yeah, I mean that could be
So
another episode. That movie's
Eternals.
such a treat. I've seen parts of Ant-Man 4, so I haven't seen a whole lot.
You keep saying Ant-Man 4, it's Ant-Man 3.
Oh, is it? Oh yeah, why did I keep
You're
saying
skipping a
4?
phase, Colin.
Oh yeah. Oh, I feel like it's the fourth movie.
One could say he's quantum leaping.
Uh, yeah, it is the third one. Maybe I got confused with Thor 4. I don't know.
How could you how would you want to think of that?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess to summarize, not only is Marvel releasing too much, they're releasing too much garbage in such a short amount of time.
And maybe they're copying the Star Wars plan, just keep releasing garbage until like I guess it stops making money.
But at least Star Wars, I mean, they're releasing shows like crazy, I think. But their movies they stopped because even
True.
Bob Iger said like after Solo flopped, they all were so terrified. And then he said after Episode 9, there's going to be a break with the movies. It's like, read the room a little bit. I mean, Guardians made the most money so far. I since Spider-Man. No, actually since Doctor Strange, because that movie somehow made like almost $1 billion. How did that movie make so much money? My God.
I think because they had Doctor Strange and Wanda, like the appeal of the crossover. Plus, I mean, people did like Doctor
Oh,
Strange.
I lied. It's the most since Black Panther 2.
How did that make money?
I don't know. Because this one only made 845, which isn't too bad. But the Guardians never made a lot of money anyway. Like they were never one of the top grossing ones for Marvel.
Didn't the second one do pretty well?
Second one made 869. The first one made 773. So we're never too crazy.
Which is surprising for how popular they became. The movies did do a little bit better.
I mean,
Well, I,
we live in a world where Thor: Love and Thunder made 760. It's disgusting.
well, yeah. Look at how they massacred my boy.
That's what, at least for me, like it's easy to say nothing after Endgame exists.
Yes.
Honestly, nothing after Infinity War exists.
Yeah, Thanos won. We gave it a good run, guys.
We tried. Yeah, because Far From Home, that movie is so forgettable. The Far From Home, and it's so weak.
And then No Way Home.
What's his face? Mysterio's motive is so weak. Tony Stark sacrificed his life to save half of all life. I'm mad at him still for naming my thing Barf. What a loser. Get over it.
And Spider-Man, after knowing this guy for 12 hours, gives him Stark's technology.
It's
And you seem
so.
very trustworthy, Mr. Guy, who I have no idea who
I don't know how
exists.
people like that movie. That movie's just so bad.
It's because everyone wants to clap at the like. Don't get me wrong, I love my Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but I don't think he makes up for the bad movie.
Yeah, it's just everything else is just. Ugh. Ugh.
Yeah, that one.
Don't you find it funny for Tom Holland that anything that's not MCU is just a disaster for him?
Well, like Uncharted or what else?
He did that show called A Crowded Room. Just any non-MCU
Is that
project,
the
it
one where he
just
gets molested?
I don't know. But any MCU project or non-MCU project that he works on is just like really bad. And it's because it's all about the brand, not him per se.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that we said this too. Like, there aren't really actors anymore. It's like just the brand. You don't go see a movie for the actor. You go see a movie because you want to see a Marvel movie.
I'm not
But
seeing a Spider or I'm not seeing a Tom Holland movie. I want to see a Spider-Man movie. I don't care
yeah,
about Tom Holland. Speaking of Tom Holland, maybe our next episode will be on Uncharted.
why do you do this?
I think that'll be a fun one to cover.
Why?
Why? Because your boy recommended it?
Yeah. Any final thoughts? I know we went off the rails a little bit. Any final thoughts for Guardians 3?
I guess I can honestly say the best movie since Endgame.
What a low
I
bar
would,
there.
I would say it's the best movie since Infinity War.
Well, I say
Uh,
Endgame because that was like the end of the saga.
Yeah, it's the reason I don't include it is because Endgame set all this in motion, Craig, and it's unforgivable.
this is true. Fat
It was no
Thor, Gamora,
the multiverse set all this in motion.
Captain America
Yeah.
being selfish.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, she was not in the first Infinity War, which was nice.
I can tell you right now, Colin's bold prediction before he gives his final thoughts. The Marvels is going to make zero money. The movie's going to bomb.
No, you mean zero money, you mean it's just gonna bomb.
Yeah, it's going to bomb. There's no way that's going to. I'll be shocked if that thing,
Makes profit.
yeah, or grosses over like a billion. If that thing somehow crosses a billion, Marvel's definitely paying people to
Yeah,
fill
Is there
there's
those
no
still
way.
more
theaters.
for the first Captain Marvel?
Yeah, there's accusations going around for that, but there's no way. No one likes Captain Marvel. No one wants to see a sequel. Like I'm sure that's a movie like people had very little interest about. Like, oh, why would we want to see a Captain Marvel sequel?
Well, that's why they're bringing Monica Rambeau and the other one,
Miss
the
Marvel.
fangirl.
I don't think that's just enough to draw people in. They're gonna.
Well, I'm saying because I don't think she has the power. That's why they're bringing other people into to kind of help draw people in. I'm gonna say it's a huge plot hole that the fact that Captain Marvel has like a huge dedicated fangirl where she has like her room dedicated in Captain Marvel uh like paraphernalia. No one knows any idea who she is. Like she appears for like like a few appearances on Earth. Like who could be her fan? Like who could be her biggest fan?
That's true.
That's a plot hole. I will say it's not even like people talk about plot holes. No, that's a plot hole. It makes absolutely zero sense. Someone could be a fangirl for her. Literally, any other Avenger I can understand except her. Even Rocket. People like animals.
But how's she
Steve
gonna
Rogers
cosplay
Nerd.
as an animal, Craig? She gonna be a
No, I'm
furry?
saying like like people like animals. They could like Rocket. They would not like Captain Marvel.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, my final thought is yes, it's the best Marvel movie probably since Endgame. despite what Daniel said, Endgame set this all in motion. Endgame is really good at times and really bad at times. So it's like in the middle. But yeah,
Right.
every all the other trash that came out after Endgame, this is just so much better.
I
Did you give
agree.
your Daniel? Did you give your final thought already, or
Yeah, this movie's. I
it's
don't hate this.
competent? It's
Yeah,
competent.
I don't
Did.
hate this movie. It has its moments, and I think it could have been much better, but it's still watchable and it has its moments where you can enjoy it.
Well,
There's glimpses of,
maybe not the animal cruelty part, unless you're Michael Vick.
um, but yeah, no, there's glimpses of the old Marvel, so it was nice to see that, and it was nice to see the Guardians again.
Yes. Oh, real quick, did you guys know that when Nebula is carrying out Chris Pratt, that was a like a model, or that was a dummy. It was a
Oh,
40 to 50 pound dummy that they actually made of Chris Pratt. They just had Nebula carry it.
oh, because usually I always think of like they use wires or
No,
something.
that was an actual dummy.
Neat.
Yeah, the more you know.
And these actors talk about how they get in such great shape to do these physically demanding
Well,
jobs, and you can't even carry a 200-pound man.
yeah, I don't think
Lame.
Karen Gillian can or Gillan, whatever her name is, could carry probably like 210 Chris Pratt take after take. All right, Karen, just move him up.
So when you get on the rocks regimen.
She's not dedicated to like her role, so let's
Yeah.
dock the movie for that.
Well, this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I am Colin.
I'm Craig.
And I'm Captain Marvel's #1 fan.
Ah, Jesus.